Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us and welcome. I'm Stephanie Zeverino, Director of Business Development for Belmont Village, South Florida, coming to you from our beautiful Fort Lauderdale location, as you can see from this beautiful view behind me. We are thrilled to have Dr. Karen Wolf on today to talk about this very important topic, women and Alzheimer's, why such a disparity, and some of the things we can do to help mitigate the risk. After Dr. Wolf's presentation, we will open it up to Q&A, and we'll try to get to as many questions that time will allow us. So please be sure to put your questions in the Q&A section in this webinar. Additionally, we invite you to stay on a little longer to learn about Belmont Village, as we will be showing you a short video on our award-winning memory care programs. And I will also introduce you to one of our family advisors, Susan Berger, to talk briefly about our product and services. So let's get started. Dr. Karen is trained as a medical director in Australia and dedicated the last 25 years to health promotion and wellness. Dr. Karen is skilled at delivering complex medical, biological, and nutritional information in an understandable way. She is a holistic health coach and a graduate of the Institute for Integrative Nutrition and was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award by the National Wellness Institute in 2016. Dr. Karen graduated from Sydney University with a bachelor's in medicine and a bachelor of surgery. She began her career in Australia as a family care and spoke on many panels as an advocate for healthcare reform. In her role as the medical director of the Australian Government Health Services, she spent 8 years in the administration of national healthcare, wellness, and senior programs. Education continues to be a component in Dr. Karen's career in support of her passion to help others make positive lifestyle choices. She obtained a master's degree in psychology from National University in California. Dr. Karen also authored 7 books, which include Is Your Lifestyle Killing You? The 8 Simple Steps for Lasting Weight Loss and Optimal Health, From Stress to Strength, Medicine from the Inside Out, and Create the Body Your Soul Desires. Now I'd like to introduce Dr. Karen Wolf.
Thank you, Stephanie. So great to be here. And first of all, yes, I'm Australian, but I'm coming to you today from California. So I know a lot of people say, oh, is she in Australia? And sending my blessings out to Australia for a lot of the rain and floods they're having there. So it's just a delight to be here. This is such an important topic, and I'm glad you're here. And I hope that you'll take something from today and apply it to your life and share it with people you love. We're going to cover a lot of things, and it is a lot, but you will get the recording, which is great, so you can refer back. And I would just suggest that you take in what you can now, and anything that jumps out at you that you want to apply straight away, then maybe jot that down, because we really do have better outcomes when we write things down. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we are going to start by looking at what we're going to cover. I always think it's good to tell you what we're going to do today. So we have a short amount of time, but a lot of things to cover. So I think the first thing I really want to address is some brain myths, because a lot of us carry around these beliefs that have been proven wrong. So that's what we're going to do first. Then I'm going to talk about this gender disparity. Why are women at greater risk? Is it just longevity, or is there something else happening? And I'm going to give you some good news. And then we're going to go through 10 specific ways to reduce your risk. So you've got something really concrete to leave with today. So let's get started. The first myth that I hear all the time is your risk of getting Alzheimer's or any other dementia is mostly driven by your genetics or by luck. Now, for a long time, we believed that it was always about genetics. And you may have even heard about a specific gene that I will talk about. But this has been disproven. There are about 20 genes that are related to Alzheimer's risk. One in particular that you've probably heard of, ApoE4. And I'm going to talk about that. But I'm here to tell you that a very small amount of the true risk of Alzheimer's is genetic. There's only about 3% of people that have a double allele for a particular gene that puts them at greater risk. And this is really important. The National Institute on Aging has said that this is the gene ApoE4. That's what it looks like. You've probably heard about it. You can certainly talk to your doctor about it if it's something that you want to look at. It is called a risk factor gene. And this is what I want to really get through to you. It doesn't confer disease, it's risk. It increases someone's chance of developing the disease, but it does not mean that they're definitely going to get the disease. And that's such an important point, because if someone has a genetic test and they have this gene, then in their mind they think, oh, I'm going to get it. It's just a very bad path to go down. But it is helpful to know, because if that means there's more risk, then pay attention to more of the brain enriching lifestyle practices that reduce that risk. Because here's the great news. There in medicine, there is a term called epigenetics. Epi is around, genetics. It's called control above genetics. Now, even when I was in medical school, we didn't talk about this. We thought genes are genes and that's what we get dealt. But now we know that genes are only risks or predispositions that are manifest in the presence of certain environmental factors. That's what we're going to talk about today. My 10 ways to reduce risk are ways you can set up a brain enriching lifestyle that reduces that gene from manifesting. It's an amazing thing. It's not a new concept, but still a lot of people don't know about it. Epigenetics, control above the gene, which means lifestyle and environment can change the readout of your genes. This is good news. It means that if we learn about this brain enriching lifestyle, then we can shift the readout of our genes. Now, a wonderful book. I'm going to give you a lot of resources today because I have such a short amount of time with you, and I want to offer you opportunities to delve deeper into some of these ideas, because this is not always easily available. A lot of medical doctors in practice are still not quite aligned with this latest research. And one of the best books I've found by the authors Dean and Aisha Shirzai, just beautiful people, MDs. They're based here in California, Loma Linda, and they wrote a wonderful book called The Alzheimer's Solution. I highly recommend it. And it talks a lot about this lifestyle that I'm going to be talking about today. And a quote from their book is, "A brain healthy lifestyle can eliminate the risk of Alzheimer's disease in roughly 90% of cases." Do you see how this myth about it's all about genes is dispelled? But you've got to go to the right trusted sources to get the right information. So let's look at myth number 2. Old age means unavoidable cognitive decline. Well, yes, as we age, sometimes our cognitive features shift, but a lot of it is driven by lifestyle and environment. The other piece of good news. And we're going to talk about that brain healthy lifestyle today. The third myth is your brain stops growing after a certain age. In medical school, I learned that once you lose neurons, they're gone forever. We know that's not true anymore. For example, aerobic exercise is one of the most significant factors in building new neurons and building connections between neurons. There's a thing called brain-derived nerve growth factor, BDNF, that increases with aerobic exercise. So you're going to know that one of my 10 factors today is going to be exercise. And the fourth myth, that is one of the big reasons that we're together today to talk about this gender disparity, is that Alzheimer's impacts women more than men because we live longer. Now, when longevity is taken into account, there are still factors that we believe puts women at greater risk. And we're going to explore that today. But I have to tell you, this research is so new. And the sad part of this is that the research is way behind the time. We need to speed up this research on gender disparity. Most of the research on Alzheimer's has just been men and women. We haven't looked at the difference. So a lot of the things I'm going to raise today are areas that we want more research on, but it'll give you some idea of where we're heading with this research. So let's look at the gender disparity. 2 out of 3 cases of Alzheimer's are in women, and it's not just because they live longer. And if we look at the lifetime risk right now, because remember, things will change. So we're just going to look at right now, the lifetime risk for women from age 45 is around 20%. So 1 in 5 women, where for men, it's 1 in 10. And this is what we're going to look at. Why is it higher in women? Because remember, it's not just about longevity. The other aspect of this is also that women make up more than 60% of dementia caregivers. As a caregiver, there is more stress, there's more sleep deprivation. We tend not to take care of ourselves with healthy eating. We don't exercise as much. There might be more depression. These are all factors related to dementia risk. So we've got to take that into account too, of caregiving and dementia. And here's the other area of research that is way behind that we really need to step up, which is the underserved groups. Older African Americans are twice as likely to have Alzheimer's as older whites, and older Hispanics 1.5 times than non-Hispanic whites. This is an area of research we have to address and encourage more clinical studies in this area. So let's look at what we know today about women and dementia and look at 6 reasons to explore. And as I said, explore because we are just beginning to understand this, but I thought it would be helpful for you to see where we're looking at right now. And here's another resource for you. A wonderful group got together in 2019, just before the pandemic. It's a collaboration between AARP and Women's Alzheimer's Movement. And they developed a strategic plan called It's Time to Act, the challenges of Alzheimer's and dementia for women. If this is an area you're interested in, you could look this up and get this report. And it looks and reports on the areas of research we need to step up. It's a call to action. And we need these collaboration of groups. We need experts in the field to come together and step up this research. So I'm going to review some of the reasons that we believe outside of longevity that women are great at risk. Reproductive history. So the more time a woman is exposed to estrogen, the lower the risk. So a girl's age of first period, so if she has her period 16 or older, it puts her at greater risk than if she has a period earlier in life. The more full-term pregnancies is lower risk. And then what's interesting is some research suggests that if a woman has 3 or more children, it puts her at lower risk. But then some other research says if you have 5 or more, it's a higher risk. So as you can see, we are just learning about this, and these point to areas that we've got to explore some more. Then there's estrogen. So estrogen is a very important hormone, of course. Estrogen seems to affect the mitochondrial functioning of the brain, and the mitochondria are these powerhouse cells that are energy factories. And for some reason, women are more impacted by the estrogen effect on the mitochondrial cells. So when estrogen declines, the mitochondria declines. So around menopause, that often can heighten the risk of dementia, which makes sense in terms of the age. And then there's the genetic factors. Okay, so you already know about epigenetics. So let's look at this ApoE4 gene, which is fairly easy to study or to get tested for. If you ask your doctor, I highly recommend. I know I'm going to get asked the question, how can I get tested for this? And I recommend that you work with a healthcare provider. I have concerns about people doing genetic testing just themselves, get a report, and it can create anxiety. They don't know how to read the report correctly. So partner with a healthcare professional if you're going to get genetic testing. So this ApoE4 gene, for some reason, women seem to be at higher risk for developing dementia when they have this gene. And ApoE4 is responsible for the fat deposition into the bloodstream. So there is a link between women's susceptibility to ApoE4. And here is the other thing that's interesting about epigenetics. This is the good news. When we have epigenetic changes, when we change our lifestyle and change our gene expression, that can be passed down to the next generation. So our environment and our lifestyle influences our genetic code and that of our children. I'm very excited about epigenetics. I talk about it all the time. I talk about heightening your epigenetic potential with lifestyle because it's something we can actually do. Another risk factor is depression. Being depressed in midlife has been found to elevate the risk of Alzheimer's for men and women, but women are twice as likely to become clinically depressed. Now, I don't know if that's because women tend to seek healthcare more than others. These are all questions, but these have been definitely supported by research, these factors that I'm talking about. And another really interesting area is women tend to be diagnosed with dementia later because women tend to test better on verbal memory tests in the early stages of dementia. So women tend to be diagnosed later and then the progression of the disease is faster. So we need different verbal memory tests for men and women so that we can diagnose dementia earlier in women. Another area of very important research because we really haven't addressed this gender disparity in research to any great extent. And then there's issues beyond biology. It turns out that the more education we have in early childhood, the lower our risk, or the more higher education, the lower our risk. Now, the great news is women are really performing better and better in these areas, which is great news. So the risk is less now than maybe it was 20 years ago. Job opportunities are better for women than they were 20 years ago. Access to quality healthcare, this addresses the underserved. It's true that good access to quality healthcare can reduce your risk of dementia. And we need to make sure of equity in access. And then there's the pandemic that raised lots of the risk factors that I'm going to talk about. The overeating of sugar, the lack of exercise, the lack of social connections, the stress, the anxiety, these all potentiate the risk of Alzheimer's and dementia. So here's the good news. I told you I was going to give you good news. The mounting body of research suggests that maintaining a healthy lifestyle can reduce the risk of dementia by more than 33%. And that's my job today. I'm going to give you the list of 10 lifestyle factors that have been shown by a significant body of evidence to reduce risk and put you in charge. So I want to first start out by letting you know that Alzheimer's is not a single variant disease. What I mean by that is it's not one thing. It's when I talk about lifestyle, there's an area of medicine called lifestyle medicine, and it shows that everything is correlated with everything else. So sleep and exercise and food and digestive health and social connections, these are all connected and they're all related to what we call a diagnosis. And there's an area of medicine called functional medicine. I'm not sure if you've heard of this, but there's a Functional Medicine Institute, and you can certainly Google that if you're interested in this approach that I'm talking about, that talks about diagnoses being the leaves of a tree. So here's dementia here. It's a diagnosis. But what's happening underneath the roots, which could be happening over many years to give us that diagnosis, are all these lifestyle factors, which actually are the true causes. And that also means they're risk factors, which means that we can actually address them. And let me tell you, it's never too late. And anything I'm talking about today, if you apply into your life, is going to make a positive impact. And I don't expect you to do it all. Just pick something and start today with something that works for you. So let's get started with our 10 ways to reduce risk. Now, it might surprise you that my very first one is controlling blood sugar. Now, I am a health coach, so I help people with their lifestyle changes. And as I educate people, I'm educating about lifestyle. And I recommend that everybody have a glucometer. That might sound strange because We used to just have people with diabetes having a glucoma. That's when you stick your finger and test your blood sugar. But having your blood sugar taken just one point in time once a year is really not telling me about blood sugar control. I want to know what it is after you have a difficult night's sleep. I want to know what it is after you've had a big meal to see how high your blood sugar goes. Because this spiking of blood sugar creates a lot of inflammation. And we know that blood sugar imbalance is directly related to our brain health. And it preserves the brain when we can keep that optimal blood sugar level. Now, if it helps you, here are some numbers to write down. I find also that I have people, I ask my clients, well, what is your blood sugar? What are your labs? Oh, they were all fine. I said, no, what were the numbers? Because I want you to be an informed consumer, and I want you to be in charge of your healthcare, which means I want you to know your numbers. Just like you might know your blood pressure or your glucose or your cholesterol. So I want you to know all these. So a fasting blood sugar, that's after 12 hours fasting, have your blood sugar taken 75 to 85. Now this is a functional level. You'll see different numbers in different places. I'm talking about functionally, what I want it to be optimally. And in fact, some of the functional neurologists tell us that once your fasting blood sugar is about 100, which your doctor thinks is not that high, it is affecting our brain. So fasting blood sugar, then hemoglobin A1C. If I could see you all, I'd say, oh, who knows about what this is? So hemoglobin A1C is a blood test a doctor probably only does if someone has diabetes. But I want you to ask for this. Make sure it's covered by insurance because I don't want you to be out of pocket with this. You've also got to do your research. But what this is an indication of your fasting blood sugar over the previous 3 months. So it gives me an idea of true balance. And I want it to be 4.5 to 5. That tells me how well it is being controlled. Then triglycerides are related to blood sugar and fasting insulin, because insulin is what keeps our blood sugar in control. And if you have a high insulin, it's working way too hard to keep your blood sugar in control. And a high insulin creates inflammation, which creates inflammation of the brain. So these are biomarkers that I like to know to assess just at a basic level where someone is with their blood sugar. And I just think it's really important for us to be in charge of that. Another good resource, because I promised I'd give you a lot of resources, Dr. David Perlmutter. I love his work. He has a website, has really good videos. He wrote a book, you might be familiar with this book, called Grain Brain. It's about the effects of wheat and carbs and sugar on our brain. He calls them our brain's silent killers. That's why I'm talking about blood sugar right now. We know that someone with diabetes doubles their risk of Alzheimer's disease. Even pre-diabetes, that's when you have a fasting blood sugar between that 95 I talked about, 85, 95, and 125, which is what diabetes is. That pre-diabetes is affecting our brain. So it's really important to learn what I call a low glycemic lifestyle. You know, as a medical doctor, I never had time to talk about this when I was in clinical practice. But now with my clients, this is the first place I go to, is to look at what you're eating and what foods are spiking your blood sugar. And I hate to tell you, but all these good foods, these are all spiking your blood sugar, spiking your insulin, and affecting the brain. Soda pop is called liquid sugar. Candy, most cereals in a box, most processed foods spike your blood sugar. Pasta, dried fruit. You know, sometimes we think, yeah, dried fruit, that's healthy, but dried fruit is concentrated sugar. I'd rather you have the whole piece of fruit. Fruit juices, concentrated sugar. And also, if you're having fruit, I recommend having some protein with it to slow the blood sugar rise. This is a whole area, learning how to eat to balance your blood sugar, very important area. And I spend a lot of time helping people with this. Okay, so hopefully that's given you some ideas about blood sugar. My second area is having a healthy second brain. Oh boy, I wish I could see you all so I could see who's heard of this concept of the second brain. A second brain, of course, is our gut. I sometimes think it's our first brain because it actually was developed in utero before the brain in our head. So Hippocrates said that all disease begins in the gut. And this is an area that often gets forgotten. This is a huge area that I wish I had a whole time to talk to you about. But again, today is just to kind of whet your appetite, to get you thinking about what you can do. So of all the things I could talk to you today about, I want to talk about leaky gut. So I'm going to stop sharing here for a second so you can see me. And I have a little demonstration for you. So I have a gut here. When I do my presentations, I always bring out, I call it gutsy. This is your esophagus. This is your stomach. And one of the things for optimal digestion is something very simple, which is chew your food 25 times with every bite. So once it gets into the stomach, it's very well digested, and the digestive enzymes and the stomach acid can break down the food. Because leaky gut happens at the small intestine. Right after the stomach is the small intestine. This is the powerhouse of the digestive system. The small intestine is what decides what gets taken into our bloodstream in our body and what gets excreted out. And it is one cell thick. There is a barrier that decides, and this is where leaky gut happens. So I have a picture of leaky gut. Let me share my screen again. I have a picture of leaky gut for you here, which shows this cell. This is the one cell that I was pointing out. There are very tight junctions between these cells to stop things like toxins and microorganisms and undigested food from getting into the bloodstream. Because when these things get into the bloodstream, it sets off an immune response. And what happens is over time, when we're stressed, when we eat a lot of processed foods, we've got a lot of undigested food, these barriers get leaky, loose, and things sneak past here and get into the bloodstream. And that sets up a inflammatory response that might show up as food sensitivities, as an autoimmune condition. And what we're talking about today is a blood-brain barrier breach. I often say leaky gut, leaky brain. So cleaning up the gut with healthy foods, all the things we're going to talk about today, which is the other good news, is helps with leaky gut. And if you want to learn more about this, functional medicine doctors are always testing and looking for leaky gut. Now, because I have such a little amount of time with you today, and this area of the gut is so important, I have a free ebook. So my ebook is drkarenwolf.org, this little URL down here, /gut matters. It's a 50-page ebook, beautifully illustrated, talks about leaky gut, talks about 4 ways to optimize your digestion, talks about psychobiotics, bacteria, especially for the brain. And it's a way for you to just become more aware of the importance of the gut. And speaking of psychobiotics, I also wish I could see your hands to see, do you know about the microbiome? Do you know that we have more microbes living inside us than we do human cells? 25% of cells in our body are human, 67% are bacteria, which just completely refutes the germ theory that believes all germs are bad. And not only are these germs inside of us, but they play a huge role in every aspect of our health. I hope you've heard of the microbiome because it is the latest and greatest in medicine, every aspect of medicine. And research is certainly very sped up about learning how to feed the microbiome and the diversity of the microbiome. When you eat healthy, when you exercise, when you sleep, the other good news, all these 10 factors are going to help with a healthy microbiome. They play a critical role. And Dr. David Perlmutter, that I was mentioning earlier from Grain Brain, he also wrote a book called Brain Maker. He is doing a lot of research on the specific role of the microbiome and Alzheimer's disease. You'll see that on his website. So think about these bugs inside of you as this collective ecosystem that exerts a huge influence on every aspect of our health. And they need diversity. So you can have an imbalance of one. The bad bugs, let me tell you, love sugar. So if you are overdoing sugar refined foods, you're going to get an overabundance of the pathogenic bugs. And the good bugs are minimal. So by reducing your sugar intake and eating a neuroprotective diet, this is helping the microbiome. And I'm going to give you a specific list of foods. And the consequences of this imbalanced ecosystem are anxiety, depression, brain fog, PTSD, Alzheimer's disease, autism. It's amazing. This has revolutionized our understanding of mental health. Kelly Brogan wrote a great book called A Mind of Your Own, another great book. She's a psychiatrist that follows these lifestyle principles, and now in her practice is talking about how lifestyle is linked to all of these conditions. We need more voices talking about this because lifestyle is so much we can actually do something about. Okay, so let's look at number 3. I'm just going to put my little gutsy down here. Exercise. I bet you knew I was going to talk about exercise because I talked about this, remember, with exercise and the brain-derived nerve growth factor. So I have for you, very simply, exercise in the brain is big. What does it do? It increases blood flow to the brain. So when you increase blood flow, you increase nutrients and oxygen. That's what we want for our brain. It reduces inflammation. Remember I talked about inflammation and insulin? A lot of things cause inflammation, stress, anxiety, high blood sugar, leaky gut. And so when we reduce inflammation, we're enhancing our cognitive ability. And then there's these growth factors that we dispel. Remember that myth that, oh, the brain can't grow, but it can. So specifically aerobic exercise. And let me tell you, a brisk walk. So some people think you've just got to go to the gym and you got to do all this. No, a brisk walk. So that just means that it's just a little hard to talk versus just a meander. But if you want to start meandering, start there. But a brisk walk where you just kind of get your heart rate up at a safe level, because you definitely want to be under medical supervision to be cleared for this, creates brain-derived nerve growth factors. It creates growth of the brain. So exercise is big. And here are my tips. With the aerobic exercise, 25 to 30 minutes a day. Here's an interesting fact, and I've done some research on this. When you actually strengthen your legs, might be why brisk walking is so good, when you have strong legs, you have a bigger brain. So even doing some chair sits, like I'm sitting in a chair here. So instead of sitting all day, making sure you do sit, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. I've got wheels on my chair, so I've got to be careful here. That strengthens your upper legs. Remember, bigger legs, bigger brain. And the other thing is exercising in the morning. Like this morning, I did a 30-minute workout. If I sat all day as a result of working here, that benefit would be gone because we've got to move every hour. The continued movement, which is why a little bit of exercise throughout the day is better than a big amount of exercise and then being sedentary. I cannot reinforce the most significant factor for brain health, exercise. So then we have a neuroprotective diet. Don't you love this picture? Oh my gosh, I just love that picture. You knew I was going to talk about food. So you might have heard related to Alzheimer's, the MIND diet, which is a hybrid of the Mediterranean and the DASH. DASH stands for Dietary Approach to Stopping Hypertension. This is the one that's been most talked about with Alzheimer's. Lots of leafy greens, berries 3 times a week. I keep hearing about blueberries every day, blueberries. Nuts and beans, whole grains and olive oil, and restricting things that you would think, sugar, butter, red meat, margarine, cheese, salt, fried, fast foods. But I have for you today, and feel free to take a picture of this if it's helpful, because this is something you can do straight away. And from the research, actually this comes from Dean and Aisha Shirzai's book, The Alzheimer's Solution, the top 20 brain nourishing foods, because that's what I hear from people. Just tell me, like, give me a list so that I can immediately start applying this. I do blueberries every day because they're one of the top on the list, and leafy greens at least twice a day. Then you have, this is alphabetical order, avocado, beans. Hey, isn't it great that you see coffee and dark chocolate? Some of the research does definitely I know Dr. David Perlmutter talks about coffee and dark chocolate. Of course, not overdoing it, but I'm glad they're on the list. Chia seeds, spices. Oh my gosh, spices, fresh spices, not the ones you buy in a little jar that's like not, doesn't have the nutrients, but real. I get cilantro and parsley and I chop them up and put them in my salads, turmeric, whole grains. So I hope that list is helpful for you to immediately apply. But just as we talk about what to eat, we got to talk about what not to eat. I talked about sugar and processed foods, pastries and sweets, processed foods, pastrami, salami, hot dogs, red meat, fried and fast foods. I'm sure none of this surprises you. But being mindful of a neuroprotective diet is something we can do straight away. Okay, number 5. It might be something you don't think about, but we do live in a fairly toxic environment, depending where in the country you live. And on average, adults expect taking over 20,000 toxins in any given day. Imagine that all these toxins are like an Alzheimer's soup. And some of them we can do something about, some of them we can't. GMO foods, yeah, we have choice. Coloring and additives, we have choice. Chemicals in skincare products, what we put on our skin gets absorbed in the cells of our body, which goes to the brain. Mercury-laden fish, raw tuna is one of the highest in mercury levels. The drinking water we drink, glyphosate. So what these do is they interfere with the detoxification of our body. And when we aren't detoxifying, we're increasing our toxins, and our brain does not like toxins. So environmental factors are very important and they often get forgotten. I love this picture, and I cannot reinforce enough the importance of staying socially connected at every age. And I want to tell you that social connections build cognitive reserve, and they do that by lowering our stress level. When we share our life with others, our burdens and our joys, it's literally a burden off our shoulders. And it lowers our cortisol level, that stress hormone that does a lot of damage in our body, including inflammation. It increases this growth factor in our brain, BDNF, when we connect with others. I'm glad you're here because you're connecting, you're learning, you're enriching your life right now, and that is really good for your brain. Decreased depression when we connect with others, and increased action and emotion. We tend to want to do things in life when we're socially connected versus isolated. The pandemic is very concerning. I'm very concerned about the long-term mental and cognitive effects of the pandemic. It's one of the reasons I'm very passionate about this topic right now, because this physical distancing and the isolation is linked to a greater risk of depression. And so I hope you are taking steps now, and you've learned about Zoom or whatever we had to do with physical distancing and staying connected with people you love. Stimulate your brain, mental exercises. You've heard of this. So I call this good stress, because if you don't use it, you lose it. So it's good stress. Learning a new language, or playing a musical instrument, learning to dance, playing cards, chess, whatever it is you love, because that's got to be important too. You don't just do it because you do it because you enjoy it, and it creates some stress because it's demanding, but it's good stress versus the bad stress. I talked about cortisol and bad stress. So cortisol does decrease that new cell growth in our brain, shrinks the brain, creates weight gain because that hormone cortisol stores weight, can bring sugar cravings, which we know about sugar because cortisol actually thinks we're under stress and we've got to eat quickly to get energy. It impairs our immune function and our attention. Number 9 is finding meaning and purpose. I consider this separate to social connection, but somewhat connected. Whatever your age, we live in a bit of an ageist culture, meaning as we age, we become sometimes less important. I have the opposite belief. I believe that growing into our wisdom years, we have so much to give back. And our life experience calls on us to give back. So is there something you can do? I know that volunteering, my husband recently joined the board of our church so he could give back as an active participant on running the church. And he's retired. So I was so happy that that was in his heart to do. Community service, doing food drives. I've certainly done quite a few food drives during this pandemic time, or delivered food to people that couldn't leave their homes. There is so much that we can do. Taking a community class, even if it's online, if you're not able to get out of the house. Joining a dance class, sometimes it's just by Zoom. And mentoring. There is so much wisdom that is lost when we don't give back to the younger generation. And number 10, we're doing really well with time. Number 10, which I do not want to gloss over by any means, sometimes gets forgotten, sleeping. So let me tell you something. When we sleep, it's like the janitor coming into the school classroom and cleaning up after all the kids have been there. When we sleep, we have these glial cells, G-L-I-A-L, that clean up all the debris from the day. And when we don't sleep well, those glial cells can attack good brain cells. So amongst many other reasons for good sleep, we got to do the cleanup. It also gives us better overall health. It improves our immune system and our mood. We have better short and long-term memory, probably because of these glial cells. And improved insulin response. So when we sleep, we have good restorative sleep. It helps our insulin work better, so it gives us better blood sugar control. And it reduces brain atrophy. So here are some, I know people are going to say, well, what are some tips? And you can find tips for good sleep. I know in the Alzheimer Solution book, they talk a lot about good sleep. So normalize your sleep schedule. Try and go to sleep the same time and wake up the same time. So the body knows that, okay, this is good. You're giving me time to restore. Whereas if you don't do regular sleep, then your body doesn't quite know what's happening. Avoid late night eating, because that can help, that can wake you up during the night. Also, alcohol late at night, some people do use to sleep, tends to interfere with restorative sleep. You tend to wake up and you don't have the good REM cycles. If you find that exercising later in the day interferes with sleep, then exercise earlier. We're all a little different that way. Sound and light proof your bedroom. Make sure it's dark and it's not noises. I use earplugs. I used to be a swimmer, so I had to nap during the day, so I got very used to earplugs. I use earplugs to count out any noise. Avoid TV at bedtime. When you put in damaging information, like even a movie that's like high drama and exciting, that can interfere with sleep because you're going to process that in your sleep. And if there are signs of sleep apnea, I get some help. Well, I hope with these 10 lifestyle principles, you realize that a whole brain fitness lifestyle allows seniors to maintain function and higher quality of life. There is so much we can do, and I will reiterate, it is never too late. And even putting mindfulness to the concept, say you're playing chess or you're playing cards, really realize that this is helping your brain. When you eat those blueberries, put that intention, this is helping my brain. So we've got the mind-body connection. And I'm delighted, as you can see, I'm very passionate about this topic. And the fact that Belmont Senior Living invited me to share this information today really excited me, because they have a whole brain fitness program that aligns with these principles that I just shared. And there are not many groups and organizations doing this, putting this information I gave to you into practice. And they're going to share a little bit about that brain fitness program. And I'm happy now. Look at that, Stephanie. We're right on time. And I'm sure we have lots of questions. I saw the chat box pop up as I was speaking. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay. Oh my God. Karen, thank you, Dr. Karen. That was amazing. So much great information, and I love the visual effects too. That was unbelievable. And also, one of the things that I'm scoring on is sleep. Anyone that knows me knows that I have no problem sleeping. So I got that as as one
Good.
of my kudos to me. But anyway, yes, we do have a lot of questions. We've got some limited time, but let's go ahead and let's see. Hi, what does research say about women who have had no children?
Oh, well, research says a lot of things about that, including risk of ovarian cancer and breast cancer. So if you go along the line I talked about with estrogen, the more pregnancies you have, the more estrogen you're exposed to. So in theory, if you don't have children, it might put you at higher risk. But remember, no one risk factor stands alone. So I don't want people to think, oh my gosh, there I am, I'm going to get it. It's just one risk factor. So counter that with all the other things that I talked about, because we are whole human beings and one risk factor is not going to be the one. So yes, no children tends to increase risk, but hey, perhaps there's an issue with stress that's reduced in that case too. I mean, I don't know, but it's a whole body approach. So please don't get hung up on that one thing. Oh, you're muted, Stephanie.
Thank you. All right, let's see. What about the effect of trauma history as a contribution to dementia? Interesting question.
Yes, and it is one of the risk factors. Trauma and trauma early in life is definitely one of the risk factors. And we're talking about emotional trauma, I assume, head trauma as well, but emotional trauma, because it creates enormous stress in the body. So making sure that that is dealt, that you get support through that is so, so important. But again, it's one of the risk factors. In medicine, we tend to be somewhat all or nothing. And I want people to get out of that black and white and realize that's one of the reasons I gave you all 10, because it means that we have so much that we can actually do versus one thing that puts us just that one thing at higher risk. But yes, trauma is one of the risk factors.
Thank you. All right, if you are post-menopause and don't take estrogen, what should you do?
Yes, great question. I'm one of those people, just saying. I exercise a lot. I eat really good food. I sleep well. I find joy in my life, social connections. I do all those other things. Now, this is a medical decision because some people need hormone replacement therapy, which is what we call it, HRT, for their bones or for other reasons. And of course, you got to work with your doctor. And so everybody is an individual. I just didn't need that. Was because it has to be a personalized approach. It does not put you at higher risk when you can look at all the other factors that I talked about. So it's a personal decision, and a lot of people love their hormone replacement. I love the bioidentical, which is hormone replacement that most matches your body's own hormonal makeup. But also someone that's had a hysterectomy, like say a total hysterectomy, young, that does put them at higher risk because their estrogen changes. They're usually on hormone replacement therapy, of course, because they're so young. So it has to be medically supervised, has to be done for the right reasons, because hormone replacement therapy also has its side effects in some people. That's why I always say with these, and I didn't say it, but I please know that this is not medical advice. I'm giving you information to be an empowered healthcare consumer so you can go to your healthcare provider and maybe ask different questions by being more informed, because this is between you and your healthcare professional.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Does being put under anesthesia for surgery trigger memory issues in older patients?
What a great question. And I don't know. I have not seen any research specifically on that, but There's probably been some studies. I don't know if they're like big enough to then what we call be a body of evidence. And of course, it would be very probably individual for that person, but it's certainly a good area for research, but I cannot speak to that in detail.
Okay. All right. Is the risk factor between diabetes and Alzheimer's true for type 1 diabetes as well?
Uh, yes, for uncontrolled diabetes. And let's be clear about that. You can have diabetes and you can have your blood sugar very controlled, which I hope people do. I know there are some people that have diabetes type 1 and they have a pump and they let their blood sugars go way up because they have a pump and they can just pump the insulin in. That's not a good practice. It's
Right.
really best to learn the lifestyle and the use of your pump or whatever you're using for your type 1 to stabilize blood sugar, because that's the message. Yes, diabetes is related to Alzheimer's, but the best way to reduce your risk is to keep an ongoing stable all throughout the day blood sugar. Yeah.
My sister's type 1 diabetic since she's 60 now, since 27 years old. And I see what she goes through to try to keep her blood sugars stabilized and regulated, and trying to avoid and stave off any possible side effects from
Side
it.
effects. Yes. Yes.
I feel for her. I see her struggle with it every day.
Mhm.
Let's see. Oh, can you, Dr. Karen, repeat the book that you mentioned earlier? Dr. Kelly something, a
Oh,
psychiatrist
yes.
doctor. Can you
Yes.
repeat that, please,
Mhm.
for the
Dr.
audience?
Kelly, Kelley, Brogan, Brogan, Brogan. And the book is called A Mind of Your Own. A Mind of Your Own. She's the psychiatrist that was a traditional psychiatrist and now calls herself a functional psychiatrist, meaning she practices a lifestyle approach. And her book is wonderful. It is directed, it's not necessarily just for women, but is very much targeted at women. And she talks about depression as a lifestyle issue, for example. So having a psychiatrist talk about depression as a lifestyle issue, you know that this is the mindset she's in,
Right.
similar to what I've been talking about today.
Great. This one, I'm not sure if you, I'm going to ask it anyway, but can you provide a list of functional medicine MDs in Los Angeles?
Yes, I can direct you to how to find that. So if you
Okay.
go to functionalmedicineinstitute.org, that's the website, functionalmedicineinstitute.org, FMI, functional medicine. And in the on their homepage that you can say, it says find a functional medicine practitioner, and you put your zip code. So this is for people wherever you live. You put your zip code and they will give you a list of all the functional medicine trained doctors. So these usually are MDs that have done more training, or naturopaths or osteopaths that have done more training in functional medicine. And it'll give you their little bio, what they specialize in, their phone numbers. And let me tell you that a lot of these doctors do free 10-minute consults. So
Mhm.
you can call, set up a telemedicine 10-minute and just see if this is a good fit for you, and ask the questions that maybe you haven't had answered that you're really seeking. And I really encourage you to utilize those 10-minute, ifm.org. Yes, someone has just,
Yeah, see that.
Julie's just typed that in. Yes. Mhm.
All right. What would you consider a good protein to eat if chicken has fat and you shouldn't eat meat often? What protein would you recommend?
Yes, what a great idea. What a great question. Of course, depends if you're a vegan or vegetarian or a pagan or, all of these different. Good, healthy fish that are not, swordfish and tuna are the ones that tend to have the most mercury, but wild caught salmon, oh my gosh, one of my favorites. I have to tell
Love
you,
it.
Stephanie, I bought an air fryer. This air fryer has changed my life. I've never
An
I've
air
always
fryer.
struggled with cooking salmon just the way I like it. But this air fryer, oh my gosh, the salmon. And it's so quick. It's like 10 minutes. So I use a lot of wild caught salmon. I do a lot of protein shakes. So I use some healthy pea and potato-based protein shakes. I do have chicken, but I do the, of course, the not the farm raised, so the organic. So I know it said chicken on that list, and that's kind of like a trigger for me. That means, because I'm not all or nothing, that means, okay, maybe I'm having too much chicken, because I tend to eat a lot of chicken. It's convenient. So I had organic chicken, perhaps some more wild caught fish, and I do eat a little red meat, but because it's on the list, I don't overdo it. And I do have dairy. Some people can't, but I love eggs. I think eggs get a really bad rap, so I do still have eggs. Yeah. Yep. Hopefully that
Okay.
helps.
What can be done once someone has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's?
Well, you could answer that because what
Yes,
can be done is looking at programs that you
absolutely.
can apply, because my information is just information. This needs to be applied. And as you can see, there's a lot. So when you have a program like you do for mild cognitive impairment, that's what you do. You just go and have supervised attention, because Stephanie, with your program, it's like it is an intensive program, and you
It,
have people trained to do this program. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So
Thank
that's what
you.
I would recommend. I mean, it's hard to do this all yourself. And why not? You also got the support. Ask for support. Yeah.
Right.
And you're going to talk about that in a little bit, I'm sure.
We sure will. We're going to be showing a video. So if everyone wants to stay on. Is there any research for women who have had no children in regard to uh, Alzheimer's and dementia?
Right. Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier with the risk factor for no children. I haven't seen specific research, like the research for your age of first period is clear. The later your first period, the more the risk. Or, I mean, having 3 children lowers your risk, which implies that having no children increases your risk. But I haven't actually ever seen it written, having no children. It's just implied. But again, please know that's just one risk factor.
Right.
You've got lots of other lifestyle
Those-
factors.
Sure.
Yes.
Oh, here's an interesting one. Does a sound machine while sleeping hurt? Huh.
Oh, well,
Hmm.
that depends. I don't like any sound. You know, that white noise? A lot of people use that. And if it helps with restorative sleep, that's great. But with me,
Right.
I don't like sound. So again, you've got to choose what works for you. But it doesn't do any harm, if that was the question.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed to induce the different stages of sleep. So it's actually meant to be very productive for your brain.
I'm like you. I need quiet, absolute quiet, no noise.
Yes.
It's kind of hard when you live in an apartment too, I might
Yes.
add.
Earplugs.
Can you please repeat the 10 is what Lori is asking. I missed number 8.
Oh, okay. Miss number 8. Let's have a
And we've
look.
got about 2 more minutes left.
Yes.
So we're doing good. We're doing good. We're getting through a lot of them.
Someone asked about, I think the 7 was stimulate your brain, and 8 was, which I call good stress, and 8 was reduce bad stress.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Let's see. I eat mostly plant-based and organic, no meat, no gluten, no junk food. Are
Wow.
free-range eggs from a local farmer okay? 1 per day, or is lentil gluten-free pasta processed okay as well? And what about oatmeal?
Okay, 3 questions.
Yeah,
So
there's 3 in 1.
those beautiful eggs, yes, enjoy
They
them
do
every
get a
day.
bad rap.
Yeah, they get a bad rap.
They do.
Yes. The gluten-free lentil pasta. I'd have to look at the label. Just because something's gluten-free, be very careful, because it can have a lot of sugar. And so as long as it's got good amount of fiber and good amount of protein, usually I just have to read the label and make sure that the carbs are less than under 20 total carbs and has some fiber and protein. And oatmeal, steel cut oatmeal, which is the slow cooking oatmeal. This fast, quick oats, that spikes up your blood sugar. But the steel cut, the slow cooked oats are very good. Put some blueberries on them.
Yeah, got to put those blueberries on them. Thank God I love them because they're so healthy for you, as you mentioned earlier. All right, I think we have time for just one more question. Sorry, folks, but we got through quite a few of them.
Oh, I see. Everyone's asking about sugar addiction. Can you see that? I
Yes,
keep seeing that
you
pop
see
up,
that?
pop up.
I know.
Oh my gosh. So I'm
Well,
like this. You want me to address that?
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Sure.
So I am a recovering sugar addict, I will tell you. I didn't realize that sugar was so bad for me because as a competitive swimmer, I had all these fat-free foods. You know, we came from a generation of fat-free, and now we realize that sugar is the bad guy. So this is something I specialize in, and I really want people to realize it's a real addiction. It's not about willpower. It's not about just saying no. And people that don't have it don't understand. So you can certainly go on drkarenwolf.org. I've got a lot of resources there for sugar addiction. Hopefully that helps, because it really takes a lifestyle of balancing your blood sugar, getting your exercise, stress management, because all these things affect your blood sugar balance. And it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And really seek out someone that can help you. You know, it's hard to do it yourself because it really is a lifestyle.
Well, Dr. Karen, my God, this has just been so wonderful. And we're so appreciative of you jumping on and talking about and giving us all of this knowledge on things that we can do to prepare and prevent and stave off as long as possible. But again, we thank you so much. And we're so glad that everyone jumped on today. For those of you who want to stay on a little longer, we are going to load up a Belmont Village video and talk a little bit about our product and services. So again, thank you, Dr. Wolf. Well, I'm going to have everyone applaud.
Thank you.
You'll only hear me, but we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Love to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Before you and your family can offer the care and support your loved one may need, it's important to recognize and understand the early warning signs of dementia. The top 10 warning signs of dementia are short-term memory loss, social withdrawal, changes in personality or behavior, depression, extreme forgetfulness, changes in personal care and hygiene, disorientation, incorrectly taking medications, decreased ability to perform simple, familiar tasks, poor home maintenance. Changes can vary in their level of intensity. Sometimes it can be hard to differentiate between normal aging, stress, or cognitive decline. But if these warning signs are consistent, it's critical to seek early treatment and take a proactive, whole brain approach.
Whole brain fitness is not just memory games. What you need in whole brain fitness is a very vigorous program of exercise, aerobic exercise, muscle training, that kind of thing. You also need lifelong learning. You need to belong to a social group. You need to have a sense of purpose. And of course, you do need the mental fitness games. Those are important. And you need the heart-healthy diet.
By engaging residents in the right programs and making sure they're taking on challenges where they can be successful, they have been able to maintain or even improve some of those cognitive abilities.
The circle of friends for my mom was a profound experience. Mom was vibrant and alive, and I think it's because of the circle of friends activities that bring them together, that get them excited about learning. It's just tremendous.
This program is what just makes me feel fulfilled about my career, because here were a group of residents who could not really engage in life anymore, and suddenly it's like we had breathed life into them. They came alive again.
There are more than 80 types of dementia that manifest in different ways. If you're seeing any warning signs, our complimentary Is This Dementia assessment can help you determine your next steps. To learn more about the warning signs and take the quiz, visit us at belmontvillage.com/dementia quiz.
Okay, so we're back. So now I'd like to introduce you to Susan Berger, our family advisor, who's going to talk a little bit more about our programs. And again, my apologies for the glitch. Susan, go ahead.
Thank you, Stephanie. For 24 years, Belmont Village has owned and operated best-in-class, fully licensed senior living communities. And we continue to hold true to our mission to provide choices and opportunities, safety and security. We believe very strongly in a person-centered approach, in providing our services with foundation being safety and well-being. And then we can focus on the engagement, making new friends, fulfillment, and enjoyment. Our residents at Belmont live life to the fullest, and they receive help with activities of daily living as needed. Although residents' needs may vary, they can count on a caring and compassionate staff committed to providing high-quality, person-centered care. Residents can also count on our Belmont Village nurses. They are trained medical professionals who are dedicated to serving the healthcare needs of our residents. They're keen observers, and they can quickly assess changes in our residents' health. But most importantly, those nurses are on site 24 hours a day, which gives peace of mind not only to our residents, but to their families as well. While most senior living communities include assisted living, as a resident begins to show signs of cognitive decline, they're often required to move to a secured memory care area. But living with memory care doesn't always have to happen behind a closed door. And with this in mind, Belmont Village pioneered a comprehensive therapeutic program to specifically address the needs and abilities of our residents with mild cognitive impairment and early stage memory loss. What makes our program so unique is that through the program, Belmont really lives a whole brain fitness lifestyle, one that combines our highly regarded wellness model with mental fitness. This innovative approach is based on leading research and on ongoing evaluation. We developed the program in collaboration with Vanderbilt University's Center for Quality Aging. And believe me, it has changed the way providers and families look at assisted living and memory care. The Circle of Friends residents live in assisted living residences, and they become part of a small club with a strong social network. Members of the club participate in a structured day of activities. They're held 7 days of the week to help them maintain that cognitive function. As you saw in the video, the robust program includes activities designed with attainable goals, and they're conducted in small groups to encourage residents to stay involved, to maintain their brain function, and to build their confidence, and at the end, to have a happy, fulfilled day. But most importantly, the goal of this program is to provide what we call the Just Right Challenge every day, so that our residents can feel successful and have a newfound sense of purpose. Our company is founded on the belief that seniors deserve to live happy, self-directed lives in a supportive community, one that always promotes successful aging. Residents can live a life filled with new friendships, interests, safety and security, quality and value, a place that they call home. While our communities strive to create this positive experience for our residents, we also strive to create that same experience for our families and our employees. And we continue to set new standards in resident and family satisfaction. Belmont has also been recognized as a great place to work and named to Fortune magazine's top 50 great workplaces for aging seniors by our 4,000 employees nationwide. As we all know, happy employees make for happy families and happy residents. If you have any questions about a Belmont Village near you, or you would like to learn more about the Belmont Village difference, I hope that you'll give me a call or send me a text or an email. My phone number is 310-781-0539. Again, 310-781-0539. And my email is sberger@belmontvillage.com. My name is Susan Berger. I'm a trusted family advisor, and it has always been my pleasure to help families in any way that I can. Choosing a senior living community is one of the most important of life decisions. I look forward to seeing you at our next event. Stephanie, back to you.
Thank you, Susan. And we appreciate everyone being on today. For those of you who want to watch the video in its entirety, please go to belmontvillage.com. And up in the top, you'll see an area to view videos, and our video will be there. It is on our website. So thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.